When it comes to first-person games, Call of Duty in particular, naturally, I'm kind of a camo nerd. I've said it time and time again here on the channel that I think that camos are pretty much the only customization that you could even slightly brand as worthwhile in games. Since you can't see your operator, uniforms don't really matter too much, charms don't make a difference to me, emotes I never use, finishers I hardly ever do, so to see a camo pattern that I like and to see it constantly is something that I find value to an extent in games. So that said, I think that Modern Warfare's entry into the camo world, now that we see Season 1 rolling around with some new offerings outside of just base cosmetics and base camos, while it's still fresh and there's probably still another 10 months of additions coming before the next title in the franchise, I think that even now in its infancy, we've seen some pretty kick-ass blueprints for Modern Warfare. Whether that be in the Battle Pass like the things of the long-arm Kar 98K or the gilded Holger 26, the mission challenge offerings of the Jack Frosty Scar or the Heat Cycle MP5, or even the shop's introductions like the Brass Tacks Kilo, Dream Killer Odin, or the Obsidian CARAT 1911, we're still so early on and have some really cool looking camos. However, while this is the case, one thing many players have pointed out is that there's a huge fundamental flaw with the blueprint system, and today I want to discuss why it's a big problem currently and a system that may be coming in the future with a time yet to be revealed about how it may fix that problem, and as well offer a new level of major customization in-game. That said, let me know your thoughts on the blueprints that we've seen so far. Do you like, love, dislike, or hate any of them? Which are your favorites or least favorites? And let me know why as well as we go along. Also, if you're new, do be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and maybe a part of that nearly 70% of users who are not subscribed to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare daily. That said, let's jump into it. Blueprints at a fundamental level are unique offerings for each weapon. They're meant to be special in their own right, even if there are multiple blueprints for the same weapons available. This means that each weapon will have pre-built loadouts with set attachments in the design, or in many cases, the camo that players really care about of that blueprint. It's tethered to that pre-built loadout. So designs will extend to certain attachments in that regard. Now, this isn't necessarily really a new concept. We had blueprints from day one, things like your XRK weapons pack for the M4, things like your operator edition bonuses like the 680 shotgun blueprint you had, things like the Call of Duty endowment packs for the Magnum. Those all were blueprints from the get-go. And the underlying problem of the tethered customization was something that was there from the beginning, even with those. But now that we have a lot more customization, a lot more offerings between not only mission challenges, the battle pass, and the shop, there are some really awesome ones at that. So many more players are noticing that tethered customization issue. Some of these, though, are affecting more portions of the weapon than others. Probably the most prominent, and I think what kind of sparked this whole debate about the blueprint problem of tethered customization, was that of the Tiger's Eyes FN Scar bundle. This in particular is a shop bundle for 800 COD points, and I think that that's probably what compounded on top of this and led to a level of frustration that kind of was the boiling point of how badly affected this is, combining again the problem that it's a paid element that doesn't circumnavigate this, and the overall design is relatively pretty cool. But the Tiger's Eye Blueprints offers up a custom muzzle brake, a custom detailing on the integral hybrid optic. It's not much, but it's a sort of fine accent to that optic. It offers up a custom FTAC Hunter stock. It offers up a custom 25-round magazine for its ammunition, and as well has a pre-installed perk available, which doesn't visually change anything, but the overall 4 other attachments do. Now, visually, this one honestly doesn't look half bad. I'd honestly venture to say that it looks pretty kick-ass. But the problem is that the design doesn't stay when you adjust any of that on your loadout. Personally, what comes pre-built with that's not a setup that I would use. I don't really care for the muzzle brake, don't really care for the optic, magazine modification, perk, or that specific FTAC Hunter stock. So basically, to use this camo with a loadout I'd want to use, I'd have to change the entire configuration, which, as you see, keeps very, very minimal of the design. Like, I don't think that I can stress very enough. A build that I would end up using for the FN Scar is something of a Forged TACKS 17.2 barrel and an FSS close quarters stock, sleight of hand as a perk, which again doesn't change anything visually, then the stippled grip tape, and then finally the Commando foregrip. That's probably the closest I would use for the FN Scar. And as you can see, the only things that end up staying are right above the trigger and magazine, as well as the underlying camo beneath the grip. That's it. for $8 or 800 COD points, I only get customization on what I'd probably say is a generous 20% of the weapon. So the problem people are having is that they put time in for the design, or in some cases even the money in for the design, and then they may not have that design extend out to a build that they would play with the weapon in a functional standpoint with. And surely, yes, the easy counter argument is that before grinding out or purchasing said blueprint of your choice, you should be conscious of the tethered attachments so that you know how much you'll lose out on. Which, I understand that, but I also don't at the same time. It really does vary though, which makes this even more complicated of a problem. For example, changing the stock on the Tiger's Eye completely removes the custom stock design, but if you adjust the bubble burster from Moss stock, it simply changes the color of the stitched fabric. On the brass tacks, an overload of the attachments may only mean the removal of the red tinted chrome barrel or a slight adjustment to the stock coloration. Weapons vary on how much of the core canvas is adjusted, so fundamentally speaking, each weapon overhaul may not yield the same results in how much is removed comparative to the next weapon. That's the underlying problem many will point out, and I think there's definitely a valid argument as to why it's a problem. Now, as for if there will be any adjustments, officially, there hasn't been any comment on the entire blueprint system. There's nothing said of, hey, we're gonna make these blueprints just straight up camos, because I think that's one thing that they, at a very base level of the design intent, wanted to have. I think that that's part of the intended design. It gives each weapon and subsequently each weapon blueprint a much more unique element, since even down to the attachment changes the cosmetic appearance of the weapon. But one thing that I did have the fortune to talk about with some developers recently when I was out at Infinity Ward last was a future cosmetic adjustment and feature that will compound on top of how the blueprint system works currently. That feature with no real set ETA or really any idea as to when in the public's eye we can expect to see it, that's something that will allow players to customize each attachment. Something that we actually have seen before, though it was by glitch admittedly, so it wasn't meant to be seen at the time, but from my understanding, it's exactly how we'll see it work in the near future, hopefully, when this feature gets introduced into Modern Warfare. So what you ended up seeing back in the beta, if you remember correctly, was that on PC, you had the option to right-click attachments and actually see customizable options, which brought up variations of attachments. Now, before in the beta, we did kind of think this was going to be an alarming thing because we had no information about no supply drops. We didn't have that confirmed. We didn't see anything of how the game plays right now, that we have a lot of things to grind for, or the shop is there also. We kind of thought that this was the opening for how supply drops would work and how things would be absolutely inundated and there'd be a huge flood of items in one cosmetic pool, because we'd seen it before in Black Ops 3. Black Ops 3 had weapon attachments that were in supply drops and different customization pieces to it, and so as a community we feared the worst, naturally. But in reality, when you look back at this now, it seems to be the case of taking different pieces of blueprints and then being able to access them in whatever design mannerism you want. So realistically, you could have a Frankenstein design of sorts when this feature is dropped in Modern Warfare, to which maybe you have part of that anime Odin magazine being used in place of a different weapons magazine. Maybe you end up having that gold muzzle compensator from the Area 51 P90. Maybe you can put that on another weapon as well, and so on and so forth. This in theory allows for a lot more customization on a more specific level rather than just overall camos, and I'd be curious to see how it ends up being introduced and what sort of designs are presented as a result of the said update. Now, again, the ETA on this, we have absolutely no idea because it's not even something that's really all that publicly known, but it was thrown around there in conversation beforehand, and I'm really excited to see when this may happen. Now, the other question though is that will this eventually kind of fix this problem of blueprints though? Will it fix that fundamental problem where camos that players want to buy into or grind out, will that fix that so that you can see it no matter the attachment loadout you have? Truthfully, I don't know. This may be a big question mark that we really won't know until it is fully released, but there's a part of me that almost wants to say no because of, again, that base fundamental of what makes a blueprint unique. That it comes down to the design intent of trying to have each blueprint be its own unique face. So to be able to see perhaps that red tinted chrome barrel of the brass tacks kilo be extended to any sort of the upgrades for the barrels on the kilo above the stock level, I don't know if I would expect that to happen, but I certainly would love to see it. That's an issue that only time will fully reveal to us, but it's definitely some food for thought. So right now, the blueprint system definitely, I think, has some room for improvement. I definitely think there are some really cool camos that are put on each specific weapon, but as for if we'll get that fixed out, I'm hoping that that fundamental issue is resolved, but for now, We'll just have to wait and see until maybe this upgraded system for blueprints can maybe save the day. But anyways, that's where we're going to wrap it up. So I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. Is there anything in particular that you guys would like to see here out of this? Do you like the sound of maybe this new upgraded system that may be coming, again, at some point in the future? We have no idea as to when, but I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, though, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare on a daily basis here. We'll keep you up to date with the best of updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. We got you covered. So if any of that interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. I live on both those. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. But let's send out of the way. Thank you guys all so much for watching. My name is SUPPRESSOR. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.